to where it's highlighted. Oh no, now it's a box. Yeah, there's days where it just doesn't work for me. There's just days. Does that work? Hey, I just liked my own thing. Good job.
Oh, good for you.
Well, we are live now as I'm standing there with my ugly beard. So, well, we're live on the internets with my 2s of followers. 3s maybe. I'm getting a little bit more TikTok famous, but we're here with Stephanie Hoyt. How are you today, Stephanie?
I'm good. Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. You've been on live before. Have you done a live stream ever?
Nope.
Perfect. Well, the 3 people that might watch us, we'll be excited to talk to them. But we did talk earlier. We went over some coffee. Was that last week? Holy cow.
Right. Yep.
It's been a week. We had a lot of good bullet points. You had really good perspectives that I hadn't run into before on a bunch of different things. But when I had asked you what hurdles you were running into in the industry lately, you jumped right in with the buyer-broker agreement and buyers with some of their perspectives. What were you running into with the buyer-broker agreement, specifically in New Mexico, that you're having to have buyers sign?
So buyers are still pretty reluctant to signing the buyer-broker agreement. Mm-hmm. And so when I get a call from a buyer to view a property, we have to go over like, hey, I have to have you sign this form before I'm actually able to open the door for you. Right. And sometimes they'll kind of pump the brakes and say, well, wait a minute, what's in this form? So we'll go over it and I'll let them know like, hey, this is how I get paid.
Right.
We can do a term, 6 month, 1 month, we can do a 24-hour term.
Right.
Which is usually what I recommend is just 24-hour term.
Right.
If they are kind of reluctant to signing it. So that way, if they can see that my services can benefit them, then they would be more willing to work with me for a longer term. If not, it's okay, because in the meantime, I'm really interviewing them too, see if we are a good fit.
Right, if you're going to have a good interaction with them, how difficult or how complicated it might get.
Because it has to benefit both of us, that's time, money, effort, that I am, giving to the buyer to help them reach their goals. So I need to make sure that it's a good fit for both of us.
Right, definitely. Okay. And you had said you usually suggest if they're just kind of looking, they're just getting in the market, you're looking at maybe a 24-hour term. So that way they may not have too long of a commitment in case they're just seeing what's on the market.
Right.
That way you're not committing them to a long-term agreement as buyer representation. But then you jumped into the idea of unrepresented buyers. They can contact you for a listing you may have, and you're able to open the door for them without a buyer's broker agreement.
Right.
Okay. And I mean, what could happen after that? We had kind of talked a little bit where if they want to make an offer on the house, you as the listing agent have that ability. I mean, can you give me that general scenario or what might work?
So as a listing broker, you can ask buyer if they would like representation.
Okay.
If they are willing, you can do a dual transaction, represent the seller and the buyer.
Okay.
And if they still want to go forward and continue to be unrepresented, we can provide forms to them depending on what's in our listing agreement. If the seller allows us to provide forms to unrepresented parties, we can do that. Although they would be completely on their own. We cannot advocate on their behalf. We can't give them any advice on how to fill out those forms or anything.
You're literally just giving them documents and saying, here you go. Seller says, I can give you these documents. And if they ask, well, how do I fill these out? You're like, I cannot represent you because we don't have an agreement from the seller, nor do you and I have an agreement. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those, here's some paperwork, good luck. And then they can bring it back to you. Now, it seems simple, right? If I was a buyer and I found this house that you've listed and I say, well, I want to make an offer, you give me the documents, I could go, it seems simple enough to fill it out and bring it to you. But there's a lot of new line items and a lot of new things in the contract. Specifically, the hot button right now is the independent consideration.
Right.
is it a fee, independent consideration, cost? What is the label of that actually?
It's
or is it just independent consideration?
It's just independent consideration, and depending on if it goes directly to the seller,
okay,
or through title.
Okay.
If it goes through title, there could be a fee.
Right, and it's separate from what most people would understand as earnest money.
Right.
And because it's so new, a buyer could come in and completely mess some things up for themselves. So that's where it can get a little dicey, I would assume.
Oh, definitely, because there is a deadline that goes with that independent consideration as well.
Okay.
So if that deadline is not met,
right,
the deal automatically terminates.
Okay.
So at that point, the seller can technically accept another offer,
right,
if you're not careful.
Right. So I as a buyer come in and I put down that, you know, my earnest money might be $500, my independent consideration might be $20. But the deadline on getting either of those in, if it's not met, then another offer can come in and supersede my offer that I had as an unrepresented buyer.
Right.
Okay. That's risky because, I mean, it could be rough.
It could be very risky.
Now, back to the idea that if the seller says you're allowed to dually represent, then would you just say, cool, well, I'm going to take you as a buyer and we'll just take care of you? Or for realtors, is there a possibility that they get paid not only by the seller side, but also by the buyer side as far as that dual representation? Is that a possibility?
Right. Yeah. Even in dual representation, you will have a listing agreement and a buyer broker agreement.
Okay. So back to the original buyer broker agreement, but it's coming at the same time as almost an offer. It's like, okay, we're going to do this all at the same time. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. And then at that point, you could still ask the seller for compensation.
Right.
As the buyer broker.
Okay.
But everything's still confidential.
Right.
You know, the motivation from the seller is not disclosed, and same as the buyer.
Right.
You know, everything's still confidential.
So you're disclosing to the appropriate parties, but you're not disclosing everybody else's side. You're just disclosing up front, you know, what this fee might mean to you, dear buyer, this fee that the seller already has agreed to. Because when you did your listing agreement, you guys already set up how much your commission might be, your cost might be to get things done.
Right.
You even mentioned that in some scenarios you've discussed with sellers that you're setting up an unrepresented buyer compensation because you're having to do all the extra paperwork, even with an unrepresented buyer.
Right.
So their forms and the listing agreements, they're just making sure you guys are disclosing things up front. There's nothing hidden.
Exactly.
Even though everything is negotiable, it's just, okay, here's everything that's involved. So that way nobody feels like they're taken advantage of.
Right. Yeah. You just want to be transparent with everyone and disclose everything, you know, but educate
Make
buyers
sure
and sellers.
Because everybody would hate to get to the closing table and a fee that may have been a part of it just wasn't really clear. Like you said, transparent. It wasn't like immediately available. And so they start checking it. What is this fee? Well, having it disclosed and understood up front can really help keep from those last minute surprises happening.
Exactly.
And you had mentioned that we're having to go back to 2024 as far as dates and updates and times, because a lot of these things are very recent. The buyer's broker agreement, it came out from the NAR, National Association of Realtors. Is that right? That's how I said it right. Okay, because New Mexico is they keep changing, don't they? New Mexico is NAMAR, or what is New Mexico's Association of Realtors? Is it NAMAR? NMAR. Okay. Yeah. Why do I want to say it different? NAMAR. Anyway, so since 2024, these are some recent changes with the buyer's broker agreement. We just this year, the independent consideration came out, I think
in March.
And it's just now really hitting all the forums and all the platforms where you guys' forms are available. So as a realtor, you're having to educate often and really point to it, because you're getting a lot of sellers that they haven't had to have to deal with some of these conversations before.
Right. And, you know, my current clients that I've been working with, we were given a heads up, you know, that this independent consideration is coming and it's coming here pretty soon. So the current clients that I was working with, I would just give them a heads up too and say, hey, this is what's coming.
Okay.
So I just want to educate you on how to go about this and what it all consists of.
Okay. Good. So just being really clear with your communication and updating everybody. Perfect. Well, we're going to shift gears a little bit, but in the same vein about transparency and being upfront with people. Another thing we talked about when we were at coffee was adverse material facts and the, I guess, the mess that can be if it's not handled correctly. That's specific to the property itself and to a degree known issues with the property. And one of the things we jumped into or really discussed was pre-listing inspections where the seller pays for a home inspection.
Right.
Why would they do that? I mean, what would that do for them?
I would say typically if they really want to sell as is,
okay,
you want to be transparent with the buyers and let them know what is as is condition.
Okay.
So there's no surprises halfway through the contract.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So you don't want to risk having to terminate based on buyer's findings and go back on the market. And then you could potentially lose out on other opportunities for other buyers that were interested and decided to move forward on another property.
And the seller wanting to sell as is mostly because they really don't want to do any extra work. They're like, look, I know here's the problems with the house, and I'm to a degree unwilling to really work on it. So with me selling it as is, you as a buyer need to be prepared. You may have to fix it after, or it may not be the house for you. Because some lending products, certain like FHA, USDA, VA, they may have requirements.
Right.
So you can say, hey, it's being sold as is. Here's the inspection. Would that would be the question. And we're a little bit off of what we had kind of prepped on our conversation. Would me as a buyer, if I see a house that's as is, before I make an offer, would I have access to that listing or the pre-listing inspection or not, or the adjustment? Oh, so knowing the condition
as
of the
seller,
house.
you have to disclose all known material facts.
Okay, and is that before I get under contract?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I could know what's wrong with the house before I get under contract and be able to make a proper decision.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and going back to like lending and FHA requirements. Say something pops up and unfortunately, like the home doesn't have a heating source.
Okay.
Say the heating source isn't in good condition. It needs work, it needs repairs. Well, that's a big buyer pool that you could be missing out on.
Right.
So to be able to tackle that head on before you go live on the market, that it could really benefit you.
Right. You've already done the work up front to prepare the house to be as attractive and capture as many offers as possible is the key. So if you know for a fact that there's something that's not going to pass on an FHA requirement, getting ahead of that before it hits the market keeps you from limiting who you can offer the house to.
Exactly. So that just widens your buyer pool and your potential buyers or your potential offers.
Well, and that kind of segues into another topic we talked about, which was, your offer, or not your offer price, your list price, and going with a competitive list price, because you're trying to get as many offers as possible. Because when you have multiple offers, you have the opportunity for, the final price to start to go up. And as a seller, you theoretically could benefit, maybe not profit more, but benefit more. A conventional offer can be a lot more smooth than an FHA government offer. So, not only pricing it right, but also doing the pre-listing inspection and addressing those issues that make it more attractive for more buyers. It just makes more sense.
Yeah. And just make repairs accordingly. Okay. And, point out all of the items that you see on this inspection report that are common objections for buyers.
Right.
It's best to, look out for what to expect during that inspection period and try to make the repairs that are more prominent and more needed,
more glaring, that as a homeowner sometimes you just ignore. You just kind of walk away, or you make a fix that you're like, well, it worked for me for 7 years. But some buyers, they may be nervous about getting into a house, and if they see a repair, they'll object to it, saying, I don't want to fix all of that. I mean, I'm wanting to get into a house with as little effort as possible. And that can turn away a lot of those offers, especially if they went under contract and they get their own inspection that points that problem out. You may have just lost time on the market attracting other opportunities when you could have just fixed this one situation and had it taken care of. So,
right.
Yeah, got it. Making glaring mistakes. Now, you did talk about, and we kind of segued back into it, but pricing it correctly. I mean, me as a seller, I want to try to get as much profit out of my house as possible is my immediate thought. Mm-hmm. That might not be the best strategy. And you had mentioned, pricing it competitively. What do you mean by pricing it competitively? What are your thoughts on that?
I would do a comparative market analysis first.
Okay.
And let the seller know what my recommendation is based on comparable properties in the area.
Okay.
But recommend to stay within that price point. Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the seller's decision on what they want to go with.
Okay.
And as
you're not setting the price. You're just making an observation and a suggestion, but the seller is the one that decides what price they want to list it at.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm facilitating their decision pretty much. I don't make the decisions for them. Right. I can give them advice, recommendations, but it is the seller's decision.
Got it.
Go too high, I mean, you could really risk being on market for a long time.
Sure.
Having to do price reductions, and then at that point, I mean, buyers can look back and kind of ask themselves, well, what's wrong with it?
Right.
Even if there's nothing wrong with it.
There's stigma with price reductions in a house that's been there for too long.
Right.
And we as buyers, we just don't see the back end. We don't see what's happening. And there's a lot of assumptions. I can even remember where I'll walk a neighborhood and I'll have seen a for sale sign on the same house for the longest time. And I have no context. Even as a lender, I don't go and see how many times it's been under contract or how many times it's fallen through. All I see is it's been out there for a long time. Obviously, there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's it. So with that comes a stigma, a reputation with the house that some sellers may not be able to get rid of for a while.
Right.
Overpricing definitely can make some concerns.
It's better to price it competitively from the get-go. Just because it's better to say no to multiple offers rather than not having any offers at all.
And that, I mean, we run into that a lot, especially with some of these, first-time home buyer style houses. The beginning price points. They'll price it appropriately, and you'll see those multiple offers, and people are just jumping all over it. And the seller is allowed to pick from whatever most beneficial offer looks good to them.
Exactly.
It might not always be the highest offer, but it can be one of those, it's the same price, but I have to pay less in closing costs. Oh, and it's also a cash deal.
Yeah, it's also about all of the terms.
Okay.
Which
kind of terms what are you leaning towards on terms there? Just so I can...
Appraisal.
Okay.
Are they going to, their lender, like what kind of financing are they needing? Is it FHA, VA, conventional, cash? Are they going to waive their appraisal, or are they going to ask for inspections or repairs?
Right.
If they have a contingency, if they need to
So it could be a
sell
competitive
their home.
offer, but if they have to wait for their house to sell, it could be a delayed transaction when you have 3 immediate transactions that could happen within the next 30 to 45 days.
Right. And is that home pending at the moment, or has it been on the market for a long time?
So many scenarios that could be more beneficial, or they could extend out your transaction. You miss out on opportunities.
Yep.
Amazing. Okay. Let's check to see. I don't know if we have any comments because I can't see that far. I'm an old man. Nothing immediately. I got to go real slow though, because I tend to speed past it. Nothing yet there. I don't see any comments just yet. No worries though. Okay, good. I think I passed it. I think we're good. I don't think I missed anybody, but if I missed anybody, I'll go back and check those comments and reply to you later. Perfect. So we had pre-inspections, we had adverse material facts, and there was another thought. We had overpriced in the market can be dangerous, even though, it may justify the cost. It may be justified. And like your CMA, you had said, where you're like, look, you could get this much out of the house, but if you price it competitively, you may get multiple offers that can get you past this number, or at least get a better benefit. So that's definitely important to consider as far as realtors and what they're dealing with. Buyer's broker agreement, huge conversation. The unrepresented buyer, we didn't dive deep into that at coffee. And that was huge. Like it still boggles my mind that a buyer could approach a listing and get that documentation and try to fill something out and just mess a ton of stuff up, even though in their mind, they're like, well, I'm just trying to buy a house.
Right.
It
really pays to have a professional advocating for you and your best interests. Even if you feel like you want to do it on your own, it may be a good idea to, just interview realtors and see what would be the best fit and see if they could benefit you, and really educate yourself. There's always things changing in the real estate world. So like the independent consideration, that's a new one that a lot of people are unaware of.
And in the circles of real estate, I've seen videos, I'm seeing people talk about it, discuss it, and it's so recent, even in the realtor realm, that there's no way most buyers know about it, or at least understand it in full. And I'll have conversations with somebody and how a realtor considers what that independent consideration is. It's not earnest money. It's something that New Mexico is looked at as, this is a legal binding contract when this money passes hands.
Right. It's to make the contract valid.
Right. And then all of a sudden
enforceable.
You're into contract law. And, having representation, you were talking about, they could go to a lawyer, and a lawyer could charge them to review that contract, but the lawyer may not be real estate specific.
Right. Yeah. The lawyers, if you have a lawyer draft up a contract and purchase offer for you, that's fine, and they'll have their own service fee as well, but they're not going to do the things that a real estate agent will provide.
More to it, right? There's
a lot to it.
Right. And you're having to keep, like you had said, keep an eye on deadlines that have to pass, getting things delivered to either the title company or to the seller directly, the inspection dates. And then you've got counter offers that have to be made.
Yep, addendums and
objections as well.
Exactly.
So an unrepresented buyer comes in, says, well, I got a home inspection on this house, and now I don't like certain things and I want certain things fixed.
But did they make their deadline? After a certain period.
Can they make an objection if they make their deadline? See, there's so much more. So it makes sense to really work with a realtor on the buyer's side, or have that representation in any aspect of it. And
just advise them on their due diligence as a buyer. Look into water rights, covenants and restrictions. There may be some restrictions for particular properties that may not work for your goals and your future plans. And
a buyer wouldn't naturally know where to go to get that.
Right.
So they'd have to get some coaching on where to go, because they may have
contact information.
Yeah. So knowing who to chat with and verify things with. So having a buyer's broker, super, super key. Any thoughts, since we've been just kind of going through this? Any ideas from you? Any questions that you have? Things that, we didn't touch on or stood out to you that we can discuss or answer, or you can present, that maybe is something on your mind or bugging you about things?
I don't think so. I think we covered quite a bit, actually.
We did. And
less time than I thought.
We did. We got through. We knocked it out. And we run into anecdotes and stories and horror stories, right? And those are situations that create, to a degree, our experience, our knowledge. And we talk about overpricing a house, and it just sits there, and then eventually they do a price reduction, and then another price reduction, and then maybe it gets under contract, but there's already a stigma with it being overpriced.
So those initial buyers that saw the home as soon as it hit the market, but it was out of their price range,
right,
they may come back around and say, hey, maybe we will put in an offer, but it may not be full price offer at that point.
At the price reduced offer.
Right.
It's like,
at the
I can get a
reduced
little bit more out of these people. Yeah. So it's definitely a conversation about, listening to the experts who have the experience in it all and have gone through all the anecdotes. And I think we spent most of our time just discussing horrible scenarios and situations that are just a mess. Perfect. Well, that's wonderful. I appreciate you being here. And I look forward to seeing how much more we can add to this conversation. So, thank you all for being with us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
I gotta go do this awkward, turn this off. Ends now.